So I think personally it was natural. So when I was younger, my mother used to have me act out and make fun of like she would make me make fun of the church people. Like we go to church and she would go, "Hey, do Pastor Sykes real quick." And then everybody would watch me act out Pastor Sykes and they'd be cracking up, cracking up. And I also remember this. I remember being younger. I grew up in Georgia, right? And in Georgia, Dublin, Georgia, the way school works, we would always take a school bus to school because the school is so far. I remember on that school bus, that's where you found out who was funny and who was not. Like the school bus is where you got your feelings hurt, right? And I
Right.
remember getting on the school bus and not being as funny as some of the kids in the back and getting my feelings hurt. And I remember I went home. This is and I always love making people laugh. And it hurt me. I felt like I bombed on the school bus because I wasn't as funny as the other kids. And I went home and I started writing jokes on like how I'll prepare for these kids on the bus. Like it was the worst jokes ever. Like I remember grape head was a killer for me. I was like, oh, this is gonna this is gonna kill the bus. I'm gonna get him with a grape head. He got a watermelon head. And but as far as I can remember back, I've always loved making people laugh. It's been my passion forever, forever.
Was doing that as a child, making people laugh, was that a way for admiration or protection? Because I've heard that from some other comedians. They got to be funny because they didn't want to be beat up or bullied, and others, were just funny because they wanted to be admired. So was there either one of those in play for you?
It's so fun. That's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. I always just wanted to be like, I just wanted to make the class laugh or people laugh. I've always been the way I am to this day. Like when I come around, I want good vibes. That's it. Period. And I will initiate it by, hey, I'm bringing good vibes because I want that back. You know what I mean? As life went on, it did become protection because I didn't have the best upbringing. Like I won't say the best upbringing, but I had rough patches in my childhood, right?
Sure, sure.
So from not being raised with my mother and father since the age of 12, uh, it became protection. Like at first it was admiration, but then it became protection in the sense of I want to joke on kids, right?
Right,
So
right.
they don't know how broke or hurt I may be. You know what I mean? So I want to put this up like don't make fun of me because I'm good. So it became protection. And I'll never forget my uncle at the time. I had to be about 13. And I've always been, like I said, walk in the room, I want to lighten it up. And he came to me and he said, "I see you, man." And I was like, "What you talking about?" He goes, "Yeah, you use you hide behind your laugh." And I was like, what does that mean? And now that I'm older, years later, I go, he was right. He did see me. You know what I mean? I was
Oh,
hiding
yeah.
behind that. There were some layers there hurt. So let me put this up so you can see this, but you can't see the other layers behind.
A lot of people keep stuff hidden, and there are people who are smooth talkers, and they're smooth talkers because that's a way to help them either get ahead or stay protected. Other people become really, really funny, and they develop that skill.
Yes, yes, absolutely, man. I definitely developed that young. And it's so funny because as I'm older now and I tell my story, some people who knew around me, like how I am, how I grew up, they knew the story. But there's a lot of people who knew me who go, man, I would have never known. I always thought you just grew up in a nice home and things were going great the way you carry yourself. And it's like, nah, man, that was before Instagram came up with avatars. I had one in real life.
Right. Do you remember the days pre-internet, or are you still too young and that you were part of the internet generation?
Although I am a part of the internet generation, I was the beginning of it. So in the beginning of it, like now the internet is so easy to access. You don't have to have money to be on the internet. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like literally anybody is on the internet now today. You see it. Back then you had to have money to have a computer. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You
Mm-hmm.
had before you can just use Wi-Fi for your phone, you had to have real internet connection. So I didn't have so I'm like privileged in that way where I wasn't totally secluded in this world. So I know both effects, you know what I mean? Like of not having it and having it.
A moment ago, you mentioned church, and I'm not a religious person, but one of the things I've always admired about, black churches and Southern churches is the amount of zeal and zest and great times that appear to happen, and the singing and the swinging and the dancing and all of that. Is that part of what your experience was as a child?
Yes, it was definitely. Listen, if you go to a black church, as we call it, you take the R off. We go to church. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Listen, that's what the first talent show you will ever be in as a young black kid will be the church. Because all the kids, let me tell you, the kids go there. But to be honest, that's where you learn. Now that I think about it and I look back, a lot of kids I knew who grew up in church, that's where they discovered their talents, whether you musically gifted, whether you're funny, whether you can fight.
Right,
Whether
right.
there's a lot that goes on, churches, especially the black church, it
Yeah,
goes down.
yeah. So would an
So
old white
yeah,
guy like me have fun in a black church in the South?
you would absolutely have the time of your life. And
Oh,
I know you wouldn't you wouldn't consider yourself religious, but you be going religiously.
exactly, exactly. So did you learn all those skill sets when you were in church? Did you learn how to fight? Did you learn how to sing? Because we already know that you're a good comic and you're a good actor. But what about the
Yeah.
singing and the other stuff?
So singing is not so it's so funny, man. Singing isn't something I do as far as like I wouldn't consider myself a singer, but I could be a backup singer.
You want to
I could
belt
hold
out something for our audience now?
I could nah, man, nah. Can you sing?
Hey, oh God, you
Can
wouldn't
you
want
sing?
that. I wouldn't want to explode your whole day.
No, no.
I can
I'm a
speak. I
comedian. I may
cannot
love it.
sing.
I may love it. I may love it. Give me something to laugh at. But I'm
Hey,
not, I wouldn't consider myself the greatest singer, no. But
right.
I did learn a lot, man. I did. And I am someone who considers I always tell people I'm not religious, like religious, like super
Hmm.
religious, like the person that say, hey, you don't go to church, you're going to hell. That's not me, but I am a spiritual person. There's a lot of characters in a church. Like you got to think like this, and you want to talk about learning how to finesse. There was one lady in my church. I remember growing up, she would catch the Holy Ghost every Sunday. And I was like, I know you, I know how you live. You ain't got enough holy in you to be catching the Holy Ghost every Sunday. You know what I mean? Like soon as we knew, we used to like, I would act it out too. Like I would go, hey, here she goes, she about to, and we would just start catching the Holy Ghost together. And I would get in trouble, obviously, because my mom would be like, don't be doing that, that not now, only in the house.
Right. You were like inciting a riot with the older lady in the church. Seems though the comedy has always come naturally for you. Has the acting been kind of accidental because it came afterwards and was grown out of your comedic skills and your development as far as being an actor?
I got into acting without any acting classes, any acting experience besides stand up, right?
Yeah.
And uh, as I got into it and I started once I got into acting, I guess acting got into me. Like I booked Power Book 3 before I did any of the like, I guess like so, and not to sound frivolous, because I know there's very hardworking actors out here who bust their tail to get, and I'm super grateful for the opportunity that I was given. Um, however, there were steps I didn't take acting wise that other actors took. But in retrospect, there's steps that I took they didn't take either. Because I
Hmm.
didn't realize that stand up would prepare me to be the actor that I'm becoming now. And I remember getting on like as I started taking classes, like now that I'm doing it, I take it serious. So I do, as I'm getting into these environments and these rooms with actors, I would have actors come to me and say, hey man, where'd you study at? These people studying from all over these big universities and things. And
Right.
I would go,
Yeah.
I don't, I'm not an actor. And they would go, what? And they say, wait, what do you do then? And I would say stand up. I'm a stand up comedian. And they go, oh, that's why. And when they first said that, I didn't understand it. But
Right.
now that I'm in acting and I see what it is, I go, oh, as a stand-up comedian, essentially I'm practicing monologues daily. You know what I mean? Even though I
Hmm.
wrote them, I'm practicing these things daily. So, oh, I actually have an edge and not, but I do because I get to, as comedians, we're on stage no less than, at least I am on stage no less than 4 times a week.
Right.
So
Right.
I get to practice these characters I create from my mom to my wife to my son to anybody I come across. All that's essentially practicing acting. So I was in acting school without knowing I'm in acting school. So
Right.
to answer that, I don't know if I'm. dancing all around. But to answer the question, it did come natural. It did come natural. But there's a lot of work that I'm learning now where I'm like, oh, even though it's like an athlete, right? Like you can run naturally fast all you want, but if you don't practice and prepare the right way, now when that moment happens where you need to compete at a high level, it's not going to work.
I can see
So
how comedy is sort of like the school of hard knocks as you're growing up. And so in one way you're learning that way. But the thing that's in my mind that I wanted to ask you was comedy is very monologue based and acting is very dialogue based where you're back and forth with someone else. Has that been something that's been any sort of a factor for you, or has it been easy to be able to get into the dialogue versus the monologue?
so for me personally, it's actually easy because where I thrived in the beginning of my comedy career was going back and forth with audience members. I thrive like improv,
Right.
essentially. I was always really naturally good at that. So going back and forth with someone in a scene was never that's not hard. It's harder to me personally. It's harder to do a monologue where you're there alone. It's just you. There's nothing to go back and forth. And you have to make this person across the screen feel exact or think and understand exactly what you're saying.
Hmm.
That's harder to me than going back and forth. Because if you, how we're doing now, right? Like
Yep.
if you say something to me, it's easy to respond to that. That to me is just that's easy personally. However, if I just had to sit here and just talk to a screen for an hour and keep people engaged without anything being said, that's a lot tougher. That's a lot tougher.
Back and forth works for you, so the improv has really helped your acting and your comedy as well.
Exactly.
How much of your comedy is what you might call riffing, or is it all pretty well rehearsed and written ahead of time and studied?
So now at this point, I would say there's a lot more I rehearse, I write down. I'm a way better writer than I was. I mean, as I probably should be over years of time, but
Yeah.
when I first started comedy, I would say 100% riff.
Hmm.
And I remember, I remember like going into the clubs, right? Like trying to break into the comedy scenes. And the clubs were rejecting me at auditions. And I was so frustrated because I'm like, these crowds, like people after the show were coming up to me, you're so funny, you're hilarious. Where can I follow you? Where can I see you? And then after that audition show, I got the club telling me, nah, it's not good enough. So in the beginning of my career, I felt like conflicted because I'm like, crowd's telling me I'm good, but the club's telling me I'm not, And
Right.
it wasn't until one club said to me, "You're funny, but you're all over the place." And I was like, what does that mean? Because in my mind, I'm killing, you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I really started to study and watch everybody. I'm like, oh, these guys aren't doing any improv. Like I had funny jokes and I improv, but if you really want to get a club to buy in or a network, if we're being honest, they want to see how you write. The improv is okay, that's cool, but they want to see where your writing is. Can you
Hmm.
can you write out a monologue an hour, or even if you do 30 minutes to an hour, can you keep people engaged, right, with what you've written? Because this is what they're buying. They're gonna buy your script. Because if this script works everywhere you go, these are business people who are buying it, right? So they're
Right.
going, they don't want to, they don't like as exciting as improv is, right? That's a risk. They want low risk, high money.
Yeah.
So now that I know that, I'm like, oh, that's what they meant. You're all over the place. Not that I'm not funny. It's just
Hmm.
that we need to know what you're gonna say from start to finish so we can sell this thing everywhere we go. Because if we don't know, we can't sell it.
I see. So basically, they want some sort of a sequential communication. They want
Yeah.
to see that you can follow the path and keep it going and continue the story.
Yes, yes. Which for me was I'll be honest, that was a challenge. That was a
Yeah.
challenge to get because not that I could come up with a lot of jokes in my mind. Like I said, I've always been who I am. So my mind is yeah, ADHD. I'm like, here's a joke that's very funny I could do right now that would explode the room because it's very genuine. However, they don't want to see that. They're like, no,
Right.
focus, And that for me was hard because I know there's moments where I can make the moment now funnier than maybe the script. Because not that the script's not funny, but this is so right now that it would be hilarious.
How is it when you go to a certain city? Do you have to change the way that you approach an audience in Louisiana versus New York City versus LA and that kind of a thing? No, because that's always something I thought, okay, we're going to be in Ohio, we're going to be in Kansas. It's like a different kind of social and cultural environment. I always thought that comedians like yourself might have to change their bit or their style a little bit.
As a comedian, when I'm going on stage, I'm introducing who I am to an audience, my perspective, right? If I change that, they don't know who I am.
Hmm.
And that's not giving them the proper chance to understand me. So I don't change who I am for any audience. You can look myself. I don't care if you white, black, Spanish, Asian, transgender, gay, whatever you are. Sharief is going to be Sharief everywhere he is because the things I talk about and are one. I always start with me, right? Like I want to introduce who I am, the way I see
Sure.
things, the things I've been through. You know what I mean? Growing up from having a kid as a teen parent to, maybe talk about situations of how I didn't have money here, losing jobs, all of those things. I want to introduce who I am. So I don't change my material or my perspective for anyone because these are the things I see and I've been through. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
I've always felt that the greatest comedians don't do that. Like you either love or hate them. You know,
Right,
the
right,
greatest
right.
comedians I know, they didn't go, all right, now that I'm in a room full of Ohio people, let's talk about corporate stuff.
Hmm.
Nah, I'm not, they don't, no, that's not now. If I have corporate stuff to talk about, I should be able to make that funny in front. It doesn't matter if I'm in front of people who've been in corporate or not.
Right.
You know what I mean? I should be able to bring people into that experience of whatever I'm seeing because funny is funny.
When you're going to any city, X, Y, or Z city, do you have to do a little bit of advanced research just to know what's going on in that particular region or city so you can connect more with the audience that is locally watching it?
I I do believe as a comedian who travels, you should know, all right, that's like me coming into your home, right?
Yeah.
I should know a little something about it so I can
Right.
respect home. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yeah.
just go, like, you can't just go into people's cities and be like, "Well, I'm here, but what up? Man, forget this." Like they because it's disrespectful. So me personally, I love to learn about different cities and what's going on there and what do you guys do here for fun? What's the go-to place? What's your slang like? What do you guys do culturally that makes your
Right.
city what it is? Because I want to respect it and understand it. And if I don't try to understand you, how do I talk to you?
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever gone on stage and said, "Hello, Cleveland," and you're really in Cincinnati?
Never. I tell you this, because it's so funny that we're on the topic of like how you change for audience and things like that.
Yeah.
So I recently did a show in Warren, Pennsylvania. Now, if you're not familiar with Warren, Pennsylvania, this is all right. It's nothing but white guys and
Uh,
women. This is a white town. All right.
yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
white town. We talking red hat Trump. Yeah, this
I
is
think I know
Republic.
what you mean.
Listen, when I drove into this town, right, they had a statue that they made, a man-made statue. I guess every statue is man-made, but this
Good
statue was made
point.
of brick.
Oh, okay.
Statue was made, yeah, this type of man-made. I've never seen it before. They had it made of bricks and they had it dressed in a red Trump hat, Trump shirt, all that, and it said, "Welcome to Trump Town." All right. They booked me for a room full of 200 people. And when I went up there, I told them, I'm not changing for y'all. This is
Oh,
what y'all about to see is what it is. And we had the best probably hour. Probably one of the best hours. They invited me to, I've never been invited to this in my life. They invited me to a hot tub garage.
oh, I don't know what to make of
I
that.
never heard of it. I didn't go because I never heard of it.
Right. So you were a blackfish out of water, but you were totally embraced.
Oh yeah, I was embraced. Now here's the weird part though.
Uh,
When I first start walking in, because it felt you feel it. As a
yeah.
comedian, you can feel energy. So I walk in the room and looking around. and I'm saying hi, but everybody's like dropping their head. So it felt like a movie, man. Like as I'm walking through like this cafeteria and there's tables, I'm walking down the aisle. Everybody I look, I'm like being friendly. Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Everybody's like dropping their head. So I'm like, the hell is going on? So I'm like, so when I get on stage, I go up there and I let them know, hey, I am who I am. So y'all either gonna love me or hate me. And right
Right.
away, it busts the room open and I talk to them the way I talk to everybody. And we had, I'm telling you, one of the best times ever. But I did not change my set or who I am or my jokes. You know what I mean? There was some jokes I did there which I know they had no idea what I was talking about, right?
Uh-huh.
But I
Uh-huh.
brought them through it and they appreciated it. Like I had these white people saying, "Welcome to the hood."
Oh, that's so cool. That's like
It was,
so cool.
it was amazing. It was amazing. But I went up there just to go back, and I know I circled around, but just to get to your point of saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So apparently in Warren, Pennsylvania, they have a north and a south.
Uh-huh.
Where I was in North Warren, right? So I came in and I said, "Hey, what's going on? This is what's this, South Warren?" Man, when I tell you these people did not want to be called the southern part, they
Right.
were like, hell no, this ain't no South. I was like, oh, my bad. I ain't know,
That's
I know.
funny.
I was like, oh, yeah. So yeah, but you used to be conscious of where you're at because some people are like, yeah, we don't identify. We may vote as a state, but we don't identify as a state.
Right. You see, even the smallest little specks of cities still have
Yeah,
kind of a cultural difference, don't they?
yes, because they were like, don't call us Southward. I was like, well, what goes on?
It's so easy to offend people these days. That's why I asked about, if you always know who you are when you're on the road.
Even being as careful as you try to be, whereas people will get offended. Like you just never know what sets somebody off.
When you're on stage, are you looking for people who get you, who understand you, or is it more important to get the laughs?
Oh, that's a great question. Is it? I think it's more important to get the laughs with the understanding.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like the lottery.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think that's the most important because you can't, I don't want cheap laughs, When people come up to me after the show and they tell me my jokes, that is the biggest like compliment ever because you're singing my song,
Right,
essentially.
right.
You know what I mean?
You're doing
So you can
me.
right, right. So when I get people come up to me and tell me my jokes, I'm like, that's more important. That's way more important. Especially people who may not have grown up how I've grown up. People
Hmm.
who don't have experience I do. You went through that journey and understood it. That means I did my job. So
Right.
that's more important.
It always appears to me that comedians, for the most part, are typically smarter than the average bear and that they've had a little bit more trauma growing up than many others, too. I mean, these are generalizations, but would you say that you fit into that?
Trauma part, yeah. I would say I grew up with some trauma, man. Definitely did. And it's funny, man. I didn't realize. So even with my album right now, right? It's called I Wish That Was a Joke, right?
Right.
The biggest laughs I started getting as a comedian have been recently. I've always been funny, right? But as a comedian, I feel myself stepped into another level when I started to really open up and become personal, where I'm like, hey, man, I've been through this. I talk about being abused as a kid, right? I talk about mom being on drugs. I talk about having a kid as a teen parent, not growing up, you know, crazy households, all these things. And I found myself when I started opening up, people were laughing too hard.
Uh-huh.
Too hard, right? Like I literally would start it like just almost like therapeutical, right? Like just
Hmm.
talking, like, you know what? I done said all the BS I done thought about already. Let's talk about how I really feel, right? And as I started to really unravel that, I started getting hard laughs. And I found myself saying to people, I wish that was a joke. And they would laugh harder in my album. Wish
It's
that
very
was a joke.
cathartic. It's a great title, too, because I wish that was a joke kind of plays on the fact that you're almost saying, ouch.
Right.
And this is your response to life and situations. And I think that that's very cathartic for your audience.
Yes, yes, yes. That
Yeah,
was well put. I like that.
they can
Yeah,
definitely
can I ask
feel
you
you when
something?
you do that. Yeah.
You have the voice of somebody who does like YouTube relax videos.
Oh, yeah, I do. I have one of those, what they used to call FM voices,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I've been in talk radio since like the early days, since the earth was cooling. And so that's just my
Yeah.
style.
Yeah, you got a real relaxed voice. If I call you, you would be a great like panic line voice. Like if you're panicking, he's just like, "Don't worry, be
Right,
down,
right.
everything." And I'm like, because I'm like an energetic guy, and every time you're talking, I'm like,
Yeah, no,
relax.
Sharif, this is me in full panic.
Please take whatever you like. Oh
Yeah,
my
it's like,
God.
you
Oh
know,
my God.
and that probably developed, my personality had developed over my lifetime because people around me are kooky and crazy and wild and out of control. And I would just be this. And that makes people even nuttier.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you talk like you do a lot of edibles. I'm just gonna be honest with you, man.
A lot of
You talk
edibles.
very yeah.
Edibles. Did you say edibles?
I did say edibles. I said it. I said, yeah, you talk like you
Yeah.
do some
You know,
edibles, man.
you never know,
I
and
knew
it's quite
it.
possible.
You can't. I knew it. I said,
Uh,
you are Zen, my friend. I knew what was going on. Yes,
you are
sir.
funny. Hey, man, let's shift gears for a second. What have you eaten today?
So I had today, oh, you threw me off. I just ate. I had a Tex-Mex salad. So I had like, which is it's just lettuce, black olives, croutons, onions, and grilled chicken salad. Yeah. Had a
Did,
healthy and then this morning for breakfast I had an apple, two bananas, and an oat bar.
Tex-Mex
Yeah.
in Jersey, how is that? Could you classify what that's like?
So you have no idea what Tex-Mex. If I'm being honest, I don't know why they call it Tex-Mex. I think it's supposed to be now. Do you? Because you're a chef. Let me reverse it right back to you. Can I phone a friend?
You can, and I'm always here. You have my number.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Let me. I want to phone you, man. Why do they call it Tex-Mex?
because
You don't
it's
want to hear why I
probably
think.
because it splits the hairs of authentic Mexican and what you might call authentic Texas style food. And so it's a blending, right? And I
Okay.
think that that's what it is. And so it's become the recognized cuisine. But the funny thing is that you get Tex-Mex all over the world now. And that reminds me of the first time I went to London long before you were born. And I had Mexican food in London, which was pretty odd and rare at that time. And it was just the worst thing in the world. I've come to learn. So it's always funny to know what people are eating. And that's it's a big part of my consciousness is being food forward and asking people like what you've eaten and are you any good in the kitchen and what do you typically like to make?
So I'm decent in the kitchen. I'm decent. I'm not great. I'm not the greatest. If I had to give myself a number between 1 and 10, I would give myself probably a 7. Not a 10.
Wow.
Not a 10.
Wow.
Because I'm not terrible. I'm not
Uh-huh.
terrible. I'm not terrible. Some days we was Chinese, some days we was Korean, some days we was black, some days we was Italian. So a lot of my foods are boring, will be more boring than the way I grew up eating. Like grilled chicken, a lot of vegetables like zucchini, spinach, I do quinoa, uh, as a substitute for rice, and I still eat rice. Yeah, but I love all type of food, Italian food. So where I'm at in New Jersey, right, is Bayonne right now. Now, Bayonne, New Jersey is primarily it's I would say Italian based, right? There's a lot of Italian restaurants around. So I love Italian food and have learned to cook some Italian food along the way too. Pasta without the sugar. I mean, I like the sugar too, but I know how to cook it without the sugar.
If you and I sat down and we had a cheat day together, watch the game and just like cheat, eat all the stuff that we really dig from our past, what would be some of the items you would choose?
There's so many things I love. Like, all right, this is a shout out to them. I love this big old slice, right, of pizza at a place, speaking of Italian, called Mona Lisa. They got something called the buffalo chicken slice,
Ooh,
right? There's nothing like it. I've been there. I've been a lot of places, and it's so good that you'll go somewhere else trying to get it, and you just never quite get it. It's like this big fluffy slice, and they put these giant like chicken balls on them that are like buffalo slice, covered in buffalo sauce, and they got the blue cheese on it with some of this. I don't know what the orange sauce is, and some with some parsley. The best. That's one of the best cheat day slices ever,
yeah,
ever.
I can
Mm.
see it in you. Like your body is going through changes right now as you explain this.
See it? No, no, no. I'm actually very normal.
How's it going today with you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Really, really good. I'm so glad you're here. I just recently heard about you and I jumped at the chance to get you on board.
Oh, but listen, man, I'm same, and I'm happy to be on your platform, man. Super
I
happy.
see that you actually started your career as a comedian as a young child and it kind of has evolved from there. Were you always
Yeah.
just like this funny little kid or was it something you had to study or was it just natural? Said one edibles eater to another.
Yeah, you know the taste bud. So what would be your cheat day?
Wow. Well, I'm eating super clean now, which in my estimation, opinion, is low carb. So I'm almost doing carnivore at this point. So I'm eating a lot of organic beef,
Okay.
eggs, bacon, avocado, cheese. That's my typical diet. So it's mostly meat, hardly any veg, hardly any, no fruit. I've lived my life to excess for all the previous years. And so now I'm kind of making up for it by like really
Yeah, yeah,
watching
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So can I ask you, because you say hardly vegetables. Now
Right.
that I've seen that's always been interesting to me because
Hmm.
I saw this trainer. I was looking at this trainer online and he was showing his diet. He's like shredded and he looks good. And he really doesn't eat vegetables.
Yeah,
He really
I'm shredded from here down, so you can't even tell. Um,
Ah! I can tell. I see it. I see it. I
I
see
know you
the
do.
cheek muscle.
That's right.
I
That's you
see the
have
cheek
to.
muscle.
Hey, I've worked this jaw and this face like nobody's business. But yeah, to get
I
back to your
love it.
coach or your trainer, the whole
Yeah,
concept,
why is that?
the whole concept is that carbohydrates maybe are not the best choice for people who want to have greater metabolic health. So there are some of us and a growing population of scientists who say that anything with carbs, potatoes, or pudding are probably not good to put inside your pie hole. And yeah, pie is another thing you don't want to eat. So carbohydrates in almost any form could be dangerous for people who maybe are trying to steer clear of disease or inflammation or diabetes and things like that. And
Yeah, yeah.
you'll see a growing population, even in your age range, who are starting to pay attention to carnivore and keto and low carb stuff.
I guess I didn't realize the vegetables were fall into that category.
The starchy
Yeah, yeah.
vegetables definitely are super high in carbs. And even
Ah,
so that's why, I eat no corn and I eat no potatoes and I eat no broccoli or cauliflower and stuff like that. And,
okay.
I don't want to diss other people who are eating that because, everyone
No,
can
but this is
choose what they
you.
want. What's that?
Right. I said, no, this is you. This is who
Right.
you are.
When we get together, I will eat a carb or two with you just to show you that
Yeah.
I'm on, I'll have some fruit.
I understand why you're staying away. I get it.
Yeah, so there are a lot of people in training and who are doing CrossFit and gymnastics and folks who are helping
Mm.
to shape bodies and exercise people like that. They're starting to get on. It's not a bandwagon, it's actually science. So I pay attention to
Right.
the new current science and I try not to put that out too often unless we get in conversations about it because I don't want to
Right.
diss
Right.
somebody for eating what they eat. That's great.
Yeah, no, but this is your study. This is what you're saying you're doing for yourself. You're not
Right.
saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I see, and that's the times we're in now, right? Where you can literally be saying, hey, this is what I eat, this is what I like, and you got to go. But I'm not dissing anybody out there. You never dissed anybody. I
Right.
can't wait till we. I feel like we're headed to getting out of that time because we're all tired of doing that. We all are
Oh
tired of
yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Everyone, even the people who created it are tired of doing it. that's
Right.
that's
Right.
who started the movement. They're tired of it. So it's like, nah, man. Of course, you're saying what you do. Why do I have to say, yeah, just so you know, this isn't dissing anybody. No, you're not. This is how you eat. Yeah.
But, we all do make assumptions about others when they share their trip, their style, whatever their feelings are, their habits are. You go, oh, Sharif is a little bit odd in the way he does X, Y, or Z. And Matthew is a nut when it comes to eating or whatever I
Yeah.
might be, because we all have our opinions about others.
Now, can I ask you, do you because you clearly are study how you eat and the body and science. How do you feel about fasting?
Well, intermittent fasting is part of what I do now. But
Okay.
are you talking about intermittent fasting,
Yes.
which is like, okay, so I allow myself 6 hours in the day to consume calories, and the other 18 hours consuming no calories. So it would just be water or black coffee or
Right.
black tea, that kind of thing. So that's
Okay.
intermittent fasting. And then there's long range fasting where you can go, 2 days, 3 days, a week or two. And I do that as well. Like once a year, I'll go a week without eating a couple times.
A week without eating?
Yeah.
Oh
I know
my
it's
God.
it's freaking crazy. It's hard for people to digest. No pun intended. They've been going back thousands of years ago. Fasting was
Right.
utilized for health purposes and things like that.
Yeah.
So your organs and your body is not working overtime to try to digest stuff, because it turns out that the science shows that fasting is a good thing to kind of keep your health together and keep your organs uninflamed. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of really good science right now, Sharif.
I don't do 6 hours. I usually do eight. Like my
Hmm.
window's an 8 hour window. I try to keep it to unless like I break it sometimes where like if I'm on the road and I
Right.
just have to eat now. I will. I'm not gonna not gonna faint on stage or something. I heard a saying where a guy said, I saw a video. He said, if you want to get sick once a year, he said, eat once a day. He said, if you never want to get sick, he said, eat every other day.
A
Mhm.
lot of people, a lot of physicians and people in big medicine is what I call it, are starting
Yeah,
to see the light. And that's very cool because it's only going to help you and me and everyone else who's listening.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That's a good thing, man. Health is wealth. Health,
that's
health
right.
is wealth.
Yeah, let's say everybody lives to 85. You don't want your last 10 years to be living in poor health until 85. You want your last 10 years to be living pain-free and in good health and in good
Yeah.
wit and that kind of thing as well.
You wanna go out how you came in, on how you came in.
Slippery and wet and like, yeah.
Right, right.
How often are you traveling on the road to do your comedy, and how is it breaking up your schedule to be able to get ready for your acting gigs and then to be able to form your comedy tours around that?
So the way acting gigs work right now, I'm still up and coming, right, in the
Hmm.
business. And I'm not at the Denzel level as an actor or Will Smith yet. Put that in the universe yet.
Yeah.
However, so because of that, right now gigs come up very spontaneously, right?
Hmm.
Like I literally get so many gigs on the road. Like I've booked gigs where I'm like in the middle, just got to the hotel. Like I remember I booked this commercial. I did a Under Armour commercial with Seth Curry, which is Steph Curry's brother. I did an Under Armour commercial with him. And that commercial I got was like last minute. I have to do it, set it up in a hotel, do a self-tape or something like that
Yeah.
and film it out. I get gigs like that all the time. So there's no, I think of it like almost like army ready mentally. Like I'm ready to go any moment. Like I can
Right.
right now talk to you, I can get a call. Hey, we got a role we think you fit, and we wanna see you for it. Here's the go. And when you get that role as an actor, I mean, they tell you, they'll say, hey, you have until, let's say I get it today, which is Saturday. They'll say you
Right.
have until next Saturday to turn it in. Don't be that person who waits. And if this is any actor who's watching this, free game. All right. Don't be the person who's waiting until next Saturday to do it. You realistically have 48 hours to turn that in.
You're getting gigs where they're asking you to shoot yourself and send it over the internet to them, and then they edit
Every
it.
every month. Yes. So no, you don't edit it. They don't
Uh-huh.
edit it. You self it yourself. So my job, so let's say I get they send me a role for Power, right? And they'll give me a scene to act out. I have to take that scene and bring it to life and send it in so they can say, okay, he's acted out this scene, but I'll have a reader, like a reader who will send it. So a lot of times what we'll do is, like you see how I have you on Zoom, I'll self-tape myself with my camera and have somebody on Zoom reading the other lines for me.
That's sort of like just you would be running lines with me, and they would be looking at it to see how you did it, and then give you notes based on your performance.
There's no notes when you
Ah,
do self-tape. No. So this was a hard part for me, isn't like getting into acting. So how I even got into acting is wild, right? So I remember at the time I had won this comedy competition at Caroline's on Broadway. Caroline's, if you're not familiar in New York, is like there's two clubs as a comedian that stamps you as a comedian in New York. It's Comedy Cellar, USA, and that's Caroline's on Broadway. These are the two staple points, were the two staple points in New York City where if you go in there as a comedian, they go, oh, you must be good. You must be good. If they accepted you, it's almost like when people say, oh, I have a degree in business. Oh, where'd you go? Oh, Harvard business. Oh, Harvard business.
right.
Oh, and
Reputation.
you might be the biggest dummy in the world, but you went to Harvard Business.
Right,
So
right.
that's essentially what Caroline's is, right? They
Hmm.
had a comedy competition. I ended up winning the competition, and it broke me into the comedy clubs, everything, right? Now, when I won the competition, I thought that I thought it would change my career different than it did. So I was a little, even though I broke it, I was happy, right? But I was also still kind of sad because I was like, man, wow, like I thought this would do more than it did. It
Right.
gave me ground level entry into the club, but it didn't give me the boost I thought it would come with. This was a down moment because I felt stuck. Like I felt like I don't know the next move. Here I am in what seems like a good position, but I don't know what to do with it. I
Right.
don't know. I don't know why, like I'm where I feel like I need to be seen, but I don't feel like I'm being seen, right? I'm trying to get better, but it feels like I'm still being held back and I can't excel, right? And I remember a year after that competition, I saw a Will Smith interview that went up, and Will Smith was describing how I was feeling in that moment. I walk out the building, right? And I'm walking in Times Square. And this is pre-COVID, by the way. I'm walking, and it's that, there's a lot of people in Times
Oh yeah.
Square. Somebody goes like this and calls me over. And I go, let me see what they want. And I go over and they go, hey, have you ever thought of acting? And I literally went, you know what's funny? I said, I described everything I just described to you with the whole competition, the winning, da da da. And I said, needless to say, here I am. And yeah, so they start talking to we start talking for 2 hours on Broadway, stranger. This person ends up being my manager to this day.
Right.
So,
Make sure that decimal point's in the right place.
right, what's going on here? And my manager goes, I don't know do you know who I am? Like, did you look up what I do? And I'm like, no, no, no. And my manager said, anything I send you will not be a joke. And that role was for a role, it was a movie called Safety at the time. Clemson Tiger. It was about the guy, he brought his little brother on the campus and raised him as he was going through college. Needless to say, I did not get that role. And I did bad on the audition because I did not study.
Right.
And from that day, though, in which I'm thankful because that could have been a day where the man just, I'm this new guy, you don't really know me, could have just gave up on me, but didn't.
Experiences like that kind of like kick you in the head and say, okay, this guy's legit, so I should pay attention and focus.
Here's a funny 360 moment too, right? The comedy competition. Remember I said I won a comedy competition? So on the competitions they used to have at Caroline's, they always had celebrity comedians who would come in because they would come in, talk to the comedians, just to let you know as a comedian, hey, you can do this too.
Tell us a little bit about Power because
God is real.
I'm not
God is
familiar.
real. So Power, the best way I could put it, if you're not familiar, it's are you familiar with The Sopranos?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So it's Urban Sopranos. That's all it is. It's a story about power, right? You got families who are operating, growing businesses, and they're all chopping everybody down competitively because everybody wants to be the big boss. And but within this gangster world, right, you get a lot of love stories in between that make you go, wow, this is going on. Wow, this is going on. You know,
Ah,
it's like
yeah.
it's like what we do when we see lions, right? And they're so like gentle with the cubs and loving each other. But on the flip side of that, my character Damon is a hothead. That's the best way. So this guy is he don't he's and it's so funny because the catchphrase that everybody knows who knows my character knows him for is down for whatever, right? My character Damon is down for what if you're like, hey man, yo, we got to go kill these three guys and dump them in the river. Damon will not go. Why do we need to do that? And what did they do? You know, Damon don't question things. Damon's like, let's go. We got to kill him. Let's go.
So
There's no
Damon, your character's the perfect soldier. He'll do whatever he's asked to do.
whatever he's asked to do. But no, but he's combative too. Damon is combative because he'll do whatever he's told to do within the structure of his mind of what he think is right to do. Right.
Hmm.
Like for example, in season two, that one of the last episodes I had did of season two, uh my boss, her name is Raquel on the show, right? She's a bad chick. Shout out to Patina Miller. That she's a great actor. But if you don't know who Patina Miller is, she is awesome, man. Super, super awesome. Got to give her that drop, man. But she's done, man, go look her up. She's done
I'm
everything.
gonna.
Uh Broadway star, all that, man. She's an amazing actor, actress, whatever she prefer to be called. But who I enjoy working with, definite, heavy hitter. But her character is Raquel. She's a bad. Now imagine The Godfather, right? She's like that on that show. Like she's a bad, super smart, everything, and she's my boss, right? And there was a point in the story where I was supposed to take over a territory. I was groomed. I did everything right as a soldier. I'm supposed to take over this territory and have my own now. And what happens is, which my character don't know, is the Italians get involved in the business, and she now has to make somebody else the leader of this territory to keep peace. My
Right.
character is like, oh, I don't give it. He doesn't know that part of the story. He
Right.
just knows. He's just like, nah, like I did everything you asked of me. Damon was like, I've hurt people, I've sold drugs, I've done everything this family has asked. And now I've worked to that point, which people can relate to, right? Like
Yeah,
we've
sure.
all been, a lot of people have most people have felt like they've worked to a point of get something they deserve, just not to get it, right? That's a very relatable part, right? And my
Right.
character, if he was a loyal soldier, Damon, he would have just went, okay, but he was like, no, I'm not doing that. That doesn't make sense. Like, and then the person that she was trying to make a leader of the
Mhm.
area now was one of our enemies. So now my character is really mind blown because it's like, this is the same person we have beef with. And now not only are you telling me I can't get it when I deserve it, but you're trying to give it to somebody. Now, a good soldier would have known this got to be outside of her control. You know what I mean? A good soldier,
Right.
I feel, would have thought like, you know what? This ain't making sense. Let it play out. But my character was like,
Yeah.
nah, you F him, F everybody. You
Right.
know,
Right.
so he but hot-headed. So he stands on what he believes in, Damon. Anything he believes in, I see the cattail and it's hilarious.
That
But
is yeah, that's this one, her name is Verna Teriyaki.
uh,
Yeah.
you really are a chef. You naming your I tell you what, I have a feeling that you and some Asians may name their cats after food. All right, too far? Too far? Is it too far?
Nothing's too far from me, brother.
Let's
So
go. Let's
y-
go.
you have totally made me drool with wanting to watch Power. So where is
Oh
it
wow, yeah, yeah.
available? I want to know where it's
So
available so we can watch it.
it's available on Stars, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Yes, I believe those are the three networks it's on. It's season one, two, three, and season four is coming out, which I'm into. Sometimes I believe September, the end of this year. So yes, yes. The interesting thing about the series Power is it started from one series, which was the original Power. From that series, they created four spinoffs.
Oh,
So essentially, what they did, shout out to Courtney Kemp, shout out to 50 Cent, shout out to, and I gotta shout out this casting director too, really quick, man. She's awesome, bro. Because
we
the
should
way
get
she
them all on the
casted,
horn right now and put them here, put them now with
yeah,
us.
I definitely have to Rory Bergman. And Rory Bergman is an amazing, amazing caster. And oh man, so what they essentially did with Sasha Penn, who is the creator of the show too, they created Marvel and DC characters for drug dealers. The series I'm in is Raising Kanan, which is a character from the original Power. And they
Hmm.
just shown that the character he's known as is one of the most ruthless characters ever. Like he will kill anybody.
Well, I got to tell you, I got to hand it to you, brother, because you sold the shit out of that. And I really look forward to watching it.
It's great, man. It is. What's funny about it, even being again, like one of those moments, thinking now, right? When I first started comedy, my wife, she was at my first show ever too. I remember we were watching, we were living in a different place we are now. We were watching the original Power, and she says to me, "You got to get on a show like that."
Yeah. Have the writers and the creators and the showrunners and people like that who are in charge been able to write in any humorous moments for your character, seeing as though comedy is at your roots?
I can make any moment and find a point and make it funny.
When you do
Yes.
that, when you're able to find the funny moments in a serious moment, it's like adding a little bit of sugar to a dish that's salty because it's about balance. And there's so much tragedy and comedy in life at the same time.
Yes. It's the yin and the yang. It's the
Yeah.
yin and the yang. You cannot have good without bad.
The little things make so much a difference in life.
It does. It does. So I think without that though, you have to go through it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Have you ever seen somebody act crazy? But if somebody's really crazy, you're kind of like, what are you doing when somebody's really crazy and in the room? You can't stop watching them.
Right, exactly. It's like everybody likes to look at a train wreck.
You can't stop. So it's the same as an actor. Like when you're really doing the thing, people can't stop watching you because they're like, oh, this is real. But if you acting, the eye is something about the eye that goes, I'm checked out.
Sharif, I want to ask you about your first name. It's unusual, and I'm wondering what is the derivation of that name?
So Sharief, it's hilarious. I talk about this all the time too. No, I'm not Arabic. No, I'm not Muslim. So I'm sorry to the community out there. Well, unless y'all want to buy my album, then I'll throw a turban on for you. But other than that, but no, I'm not Arabic or Muslim. What happened was my father's name is Sharief. And now I'll say this first. What it means to me, what I found out was the name Sharief is supposed to mean noble, like supposed to be a noble, strong name. Which when I found out, I was like, I like that. I try to be, you know. Um, however, how the name came about is my dad's name is Sharif, and his mother, which is my grandmother, named him after Omar Sharif, the
I
actor.
knew it. I knew it. I had that feeling.
Named him after the actor Omar Sharif. Yeah, yeah. Listen, if there's only two reasons a black guy is going to be named Sharif. Either he has a Muslim upbringing or it's Omar Sharif. There's no in between.
Tell me, where are you going to be appearing next? We're filming now. For everyone to know, we're
Yes.
filming in early May 24. Where will you be next? Hopefully, this will be up soon and people can get to see you.
Okay, so right now they can go to my page, man. It's RIEF Comedy on Instagram, RIEF Comedy on TikTok, RIEF Comedy on Christian Mingle, RIEF Comedy on Facebook, RIEF Comedy anywhere you can think of. Reef Comedy. I put a bunch of my schedule up in my bio on my link tree. You can go see it. I'll be in New York. I'll be in New York this upcoming week. I don't know how soon this gets posted up, but I'll be in New York practicing my jokes, tighten them up, and I'll be on the road probably around, I would say, the fall. I will start hitting the road and everything again.
Do you have people? And if you have people doing your social and you have a manager, obviously, who you mentioned earlier, what's it
I'm
like
doing
to
that.
have people?
You know, it's funny, man. I remember it's, I'll say this, and this is honestly, it's not what people think it is. It's never that, right? Like, I remember because people think, yo, once I get that one person, my career changes. That's what everybody thinks. They're like, yo, if I could just get under this management, one manager who believes in me or one agent, I skyrocket. But I think it's opposite. It's when they get you, when you become what you're supposed to become, that thing happens. It's better to have than not to have. As artists, we're products. And you have to almost not take that. It's hard to say it because we take this so personal, but sometimes you gotta step outside of your personal and go, all right, I'm a product. How good is this product? And with your salesman of your team, because your team is all your salesmen, right? how how much are you giving them to work with to sell with?
Good. This has been a really great conversation. I'm so glad you joined me today on 50 Tastes of Grey, Sharif. Thank you so
Hey
much.
man, thank you for having me. Now, where'd you come up with 50 Tastes of Great with food porn? Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's kind of a play on words, and Gray is my
Yeah,
last
I see
name,
what you
and
did there.
you know what's going on,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
want to make sure everyone else does.
He's spanking cornbread. What's your safe word? What's your safe word, cornbread?
I make the cornbread for you now.
Yeah. Make it for your boy.
That's right. That's right. So I'm going to say all the way from the shores of Hawaii, aloha to you, my new friend. Thank you so much.
Aloha, brother. Thank you. Thank you. All the way from the shores of Jersey. That ain't pretty. So
Ooh,
hello to you.
that's it. Jersey. I love it. When
Going
when I fly to Europe, usually go from Honolulu to Newark, which is another spectacular place, and then off to London or Amsterdam or something like that. Thank you so much for coming. It's just been a delight getting to chat with you and getting to learn a little bit about you. And now you have a new fan.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Thank you too. Likewise. Likewise. Thank you. I feel like we had some great conversation
Yeah.
and something I maybe didn't get to say before, but even with comedy, like it's not just important to be funny, it's important to be interesting too, I think. And
Oh
interesting is
yeah.
just real.
There have been
So
some comics that I've watched who made me cry like a little baby. So it's not always
right.
about
Right.
laughter, right?
Are you originally a New York guy?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep, yep. Born in Syosset, Long Island. Moved to
Yeah.
LA when I was a kid, grew up in LA. My family didn't tell me right away, but I caught up with them. And then I moved here to Honolulu in 93.
You funny, man. You funny. You got some, yeah, you got some
Hey,
wit.
tell your manager if he needs an old white guy who's funny, he can call me.
Hey, he'll love it. He might call you brother.
That's okay. I can handle that.
Ah! Oh my
No,
God. Yeah.
it was
I didn't realize you was from. So are you a New York Knicks fan too?
Yeah, definitely. If it's basketball, Knicks. If it's baseball, it's Yanks.
Are you a
And
Yankee? Okay.
yep,
Well, I guess you was in Long Island. I'm surprised you're not a Mets
yep.
fan. But,
I
so
got to
it's
touch Mickey Mantle when I was a little
what?
kid. My dad took
Wait,
me
wait, you might
to,
want to reword that. You might want
well,
to
I,
reword
I
that.
patted him on the back.
There you go. There you
Okay.
go. I don't want to see. I don't want to see. My career is too early to go down to know it's bad
Here,
behavior.
Sharief Johnson lies in state after listening to Matthew say he touched Mickey Mantle.
Mickey Mantle was TMZ.
Yep.
Hilarious.
So,
Mickey Mantle. Wow, that's the first. Now, it's so funny you say his name. I used to collect baseball cards when I was
mhm,
younger.
mhm.
I know some of the. I used to be a card collector in general. Like I collected Pokemon cards.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, I did, and almost all of the cards I had back then, it burned in like a fire in my mom's house, whatever. But um, all of the cards I had back then are worth so much more today. Mickey
Oh,
Mantle
aren't
was
they?
probably the first card I had, bro.
cards. My wife collects and sells cards, all different kinds, like you
Oh,
said. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And to see the like now that I know the hustle of that, right? Like because that like it goes, they put it on like, all right, how much is this damage? Was it touched? Has it ever, seeing all that, I'm like, man, I missed out on that one. Awesome. So your wife is a collector too. Now, does she
She
collect like
did.
all four?
She does everything. I mean, as far as trading cards, the Marvel stuff and all of the
Nice,
animated things and a ton of sports cards. Yeah. So
nice.
she buys them and sells them, sort of like the way people trade stocks and Bitcoin and crypto and
Yeah,
all those
yeah,
kind of things. And
absolutely.
she's got a little Amazon business called Stickeroony. She sells stickers and pins with blue language on them, things like fuck it all
Ah,
pins and
ah, I love this lady. I don't even know it yet. That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So it's fun, it's we're doing our creative thing.
That's awesome, man. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That sounds like a good balance for you too.
It is. It is. And this is magnificent for me. I just love doing this. I go back to doing talk radio in LA 30 years ago.
Mm.
And so now I'm just like
30 years ago?
recontinuing this. Yeah.
Wow. So can I ask you, so you did it 30 years ago. Did you stop, go a different pivot, and then swing back in? Could you I know we're still going, but this is good to me. I would love
I
to
uh
know.
I traveled on the road with the Eagles, Pink Floyd, Fleetwood Mac when I was a kid right
Right.
out of high school. I did merchandising with them and I became a chef in London and ended up cooking for a lot of the rock and roll bands that I worked with on the road. And all that time I was doing businesses in LA, all having to do with food and talk radio and stuff like that. And then,
Yes.
one show comes after another. Then in 93, moved to Honolulu. I gave away everything I owned in LA, or tried to sell it, and then moved here and became a food writer. And I ran a company called Hawaii Food Tours, which feeds, educates, and entertains people every day. And
Wow.
then been
Wow.
doing talk radio pretty much forever,
Awesome, man.
intermittently. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
it's just like you. It's been about trying to entertain people and keep them feeling good about themselves and hope they feel good about me. It's that kind of give and take.
I would love, listen, I don't know how often you guys book comedians out that way, but
Hmm.
if you ever do like book a like need a comedian for any or host, plug your boy in. I'll
Oh
fly. I'm
yeah,
trying to fly to Honolulu, man. I'm trying to fly to me and the wife will come out there and we'll have a great time.
Sharif in Paradise.
Now that sounds like a comedy.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah, it's terrific. And then it would be nothing but me and hell.
Oh,
That would have to be that would have to be the catch to it, where it's like, no, there's no paradise. Yo,
oh,
but
that's
finding
funny.
paradise, hey, I might have to make you co-write it. But finding the paradise in the bad is what would be the, underlying message of that.
That's
Because that's
right. That's
life.
right. There's your sugar and salt, your tragedy and comedy. It's all blending together. No matter what you're looking at, you can always find the yin and the yang, like you said earlier.
Right, right. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome, man. That's awesome. Wow,
Well,
wow.
well, you were blessed, and this was a lot of fun. And I'll just I'll edit like crazy and get this on the air and tag you and send you a whole bunch of stuff. And I'd like to continue the friendship.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you.
brother.
Thank you. I'm so glad to have met you, man. Thank
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much, brother.
All
Thank
right.
you, man. This was a blast.
Thanks. Take care.
All right.
All righty. Aloha.
Aloha.